All right. Today we are talking about fellowshipping versus socializing. Okay. What's the difference? Uh, do we get these things confused? Um, that's what we're going to be discussing today. And we're gonna have some good information that comes out about this. The way we're going to kick this off is uh, there's a this video is in response to a comment that or a question that I got in the comments for another video I did. And as I said, I do read the comments. Sometimes sometimes I'm a little slow responding to them because of course, there's a lot going on. I have a lot going on. Um, but uh, this viewer, he had a good question. And, you know, we're going to give him, I'm going to give him a good answer on this. Because I think this is an area a lot of people get, a lot of people kind of get snagged in. Okay. So the question, let's go to the question. I'm gonna pull the question up here so y'all can see it, and then we'll address it, and then we're gonna really get granular as we always do with an answer to it. So here's a question. It says, "Thank you. Been watching Straightway since 2012 and trying to be set apart. How you accomplish these things?" So he's asking, how do you accomplish living set apart? It says, how do, should probably be a do in there. How do you accomplish these things when you're by yourself for deliverance and baptism of the Holy Spirit? Been trying to come to one of your assemblies before stroke and situation alone with that. Okay, so yeah, so he's been watching. He says since 2012, and he said he's been trying to come to one of the assemblies, and that is step one right there. I'm live right now. I'm live right now. So that is step one in in this process is getting around the saints. You also said you had a stroke. I would say step one in the process would be reaching out to to the ministry. I don't know if he's done that, and getting in contact. Okay. Because again, the key thing I see in there, he says alone, and today in today's society, there's no reason to be alone. There's no reason for that because you have all this virtual this, virtual that, and Straightway does have a virtual assembly, you might say. In fact, I'm going to be doing a special show here very soon in the next maybe week to 2 weeks. I'll be doing a show getting the word out about this the virtual ministry, you could say, straightway remote ministry, where you have brothers and sisters that are part of this virtual assembly, you might call it, who right now they're in remote areas throughout the world where it's only them, there's no other saints there. So we're going to put that out there, and we're also going to I already talked to Pastor about this. Pastor's going to be on. He's going to be on the show also, and we're going to see what saints are out there, in different areas throughout the world. They'll be in the comments, all that. It's going to be a good show. It's going to help a lot of people link up and become part of the ministry. But in the meantime, like you said, or like I said, you're going to have access and virtual fellowship, for those saints who are just out there and there's nobody around them, okay? And that's a start. The end goal is to be obedient to what the word says. It tells you to gather yourselves together, O nation not desired. So, which you start putting things in, provisions in place to make the move to be around the saints, because this is throughout the word, us coming together, you'd only do so much virtually. You understand what I'm saying? So that's answering his question. And, I want to say, if you really getting in this word, you're going to want to be around the saints. You're going to be driven to it. And that brings us to the topic of our show today, and that is, and I'll pull it back up on here. But that topic is fellowship, okay, versus socializing. Okay, and what you're gonna find, there is a difference. Okay, there we go. Quiet my phone now. There is a difference between fellowshipping versus socializing, and we're gonna get into it. We're going to get into some definitions, because I think a lot of times people will be like, oh yeah, I'm going to fellowship, but they kind of almost confuse it with socializing. So socializing is a definition: the action or practice of participating in social activities or mixing socially with others. So just being out there talking, in different activities, associating and stuff like that. Okay? Now this is the common definition of fellowship. Fellowship, friendly association, especially with people who share one's interests. Okay? So again, this is the definition of fellowship. This is like the world definition. This isn't a biblical definition, okay? Now, biblical definition, or otherwise the Greek definition of fellowshipping is shared participation within a community. The word in the Greek is koinonia, and I might not have pronounced that correctly, koinonia, and it's most often translated in the English as sharing, fellowship, or communion, common union. Okay, so you see that right there. You're seeing the difference is, because it says forsake. one of the Bible verses, it says, "Forsake not the assembling, as the manner of some is, as you see the day approaching." There's a Bible verse in there that says that. And again, a lot of times, because of the deceptive, I would say, because of our Greco-Roman Catholic understanding of religion, because we look at it through that lens, when we hear "forsake not the assembling," or when we hear fellowship, we think, hey, we're going to go meet on Saturday, or if you're a Christian, on Sunday. And one of the things, when I came into this truth and had a Hebraic understanding of the word, after a couple of years, I was like, hey, this is, there's more to this. This feels like Christianity. Only difference instead of we meeting up on Sunday, we're meeting on Saturday, and like we're going nowhere. We're just sitting here talking, but there got to be more to it, because this book, it's really laying this thing out. And yeah, when it says "forsake not the assembling, as the manner of some is," it's not talking about, hey, just meet up one day. It's saying come together as a nation, as a family, live together, have all things in common. In Revelation, I think it tells you, come out from among them and be ye separate. Okay? When it in Proverbs, it says, "Is iron sharpened as iron?" Let me pull it up. It talks about sharpening your countenance. Okay? Let's see. Iron. Okay, let's see. Oh my goodness, that did not come out right. There we go. Okay, we're going to read it. Okay, iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend. Okay, so how you going to do this? Seeing them once a week. All these Bible verses and the word, what's written in the word, truly begins to come alive and really make true sense when you get around the brethren, when you live around them, when you work together with them, when you function as a nation with your brothers and sisters in common unity. Okay? Let's get back. Let me try to get back to where I was at. So, that's what we have to keep in mind, is that sharpening, that growth, and that development doesn't truly begin to happen on a major level, or let's say the different way. You could only go so far being isolated, being off to yourself, being an isolation night. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna tell you what happens with a lot of people. If you're not careful, you'll fall into this rut where you're spending more time around the world, the people of the world, the heathen, whatever you want to call them, the sinners. You spend more time with them because you're there every day with them at work for 8 hours. And then you come home, you spend a bunch of time taking in heathen content, for lack of a better word. So you're sitting there scrolling through your social media, you're watching movies, you're watching sports, you're playing video games. And in the large scope of things, you spend 4 or 5, maybe 8 hours on Saturday with the saints. Um, you'll spend maybe an hour Bible studying every day, and for the most part, what you're consuming, what you're feeding the most of is carnal stuff. You see what I'm saying? You're does that make sense? You're unknowingly, or if you're unaware, you're like drenched and immersed in worldly stuff. So how are you going to grow and develop? You understand what I'm saying? And it's subtle. Satan's a deceiver, man. This thing. So uh, you gotta make the efforts to be around the saints. So let's take a saint who is in a community or in a home assembly. Okay, so he has a job, or he'll go to work. He's at work, working around. He's in what, 8 hours a day. Okay, but then he gets off work, and he's what? He's around the saints. Sits down, eats dinner with the saints. You know, what I in our home assembly here, I tell the brothers, hey, make sure anytime you get a chance, you're taking in that word. You got that word coming into. You're on purpose. So we have one brother here at his job. He found out, hey, he could listen to an MP3, and when he's not having to run around. So now he's at work. While he's at work, he's allowed to listen to MP3. He's listening to the word, or he's listening to truth, or he's listening to stuff to grow and improve himself. Okay? And he's not just drenched and immersed with the heathen. You know what I'm saying? And you have to talk to him. My job, what I do, I auto repair. Okay? I get out there on the job. I'll talk to the client. Eventually, they'll bug out and go off somewhere. And then I'll be listening to the word and just be at peace and doing my job, doing the work I got to do. Okay? But so going back to a brother who he works out in the world, he comes back, he comes home. Each night we're eating together, talking with the saints. We might have projects and work we have to do together. And here in our assembly, there's expectations, there's schedules people need to be on. We make sure everybody's locked in to a effective, proficient routine for their growth and development, spiritually, mentally, physically, just in all the areas to grow. So again, it's the best way I would say is being in a fellowship, being in a home assembly, being on a community. It's a righteous atmosphere, and it's in an environment that is very conducive to spiritual growth and development. Now, and I'm saying that in a careful way because, hey, even in these environments and atmospheres, there are still people who don't fellowship. They just go through the motions. They're not immersing themselves in the spiritual things. They're not having spiritual conversation. They're not building with their brothers. So you can still be an isolationite in a fellowship environment. But what I'm trying to tell the brother who wrote the question, when you're in a home assembly, or when you're on a community, or when you're around the saints and stuff like that, you're in an environment that is highly conducive to spiritual growth and development and to righteousness. rather than be out there by yourself. And he even voiced some of the stuff about receiving the Holy Spirit, and about deliverance, and and you also have counseling and things like, just all those things, those benefits of being around the brethren, and just being able to be in an environment where you can talk and discuss the word and everything like that. Um, yeah. So these are these are the key differences between fellowshipping and socializing. Um, is the amount you're around the saints. And let me just keep it 100, so you don't think I'm not sugarcoating into being something that you know you thinking this is going to be something that it's not. It tells you, if you come to the Sirach chapter 2 tells you, if you come to serve the Lord, prepare your soul for adversity, prepare for temptation, prepare for difficulty and challenges. Why? Because gold is tried in the fire. That's how you're going to grow and develop. So a lot of people come into this and they think, oh, it's going to be like a Disney vacation or something. And, oh, yeah, we're going to walk around saying shalom and being happy all the time and all this. Like the way it is on Shabbat. Everybody, when people come to Shabbat and they come up to the hub, because I live near the hub, so we go up there to fellowship. Man, everybody come with they have their best spirit on, and they praising, they worshiping, they're putting their best self, their most righteous self forward. Yeah, but you don't truly get to know people until you live around them. You really get to be around your brother. You don't get to know who he truly is till you're around him and that friction starts happening. You don't get to know who you are until you get around your brother and that friction starts happening. You see the issues in yourself. You see what I'm saying? So these are things you got to really consider, okay? You got to take into consideration. Because, again, iron sharpening iron. This is why I tell them, forsake not the assembly. Come out from among them, Be ye separate. This is where you're going to really grip on to this word, is when you get around your brothers and your sisters and you begin to face yourself and deal with yourself and deal with them. And yeah, because you're going to have to really rely on the Most High. You're going to see issues in yourself that you would have never seen in a million years. You'd have never seen them. Okay? You'd have never seen these issues within yourself in a million years, but you get around your brother and you see stuff in yourself that is straight up cringy. It's like, ooh, let me start facing that. And man, you are going to grow. I'm telling you. Because I can tell you, man, this last couple months, this year here, man, you call this year the year of clear vision, because my vision has been cleared up. I've really been able to see a lot clearer. I've seen a lot of issues in the way I approach things. Just, man, you're going to, getting around your brothers and sisters in community, you're going to see so much stuff within yourself that you got to work on. Because at the end of the day, we need to work our salvation out with fear and trembling. We need to save ourselves from this wicked and untaught generation. So we got to really, like, you're going to really see this thing to the point where you got to, okay, let me throttle back and let me deal with these things a little bit at a time. Let me not jump into too much at once. You see what I'm saying? But yeah. So that, if you ask me the difference between fellowshipping and socializing, these are some of the key things I would point out. Let me see. Let me see what else I have. Because there's some more key differences that need to be pointed out. So, socializing is often temporary based on current moods, activities, or social settings. Fellowshipping involves deep commitment and holding life in common. So, having things in common in life, being in alignment with this word. You know, that's the commonality. That's the thing that binds us together is the word. And that culture, the culture of the word, that way of living. Socializing stays on surface, discusses kind of general life events. It's more surface level, okay? Fellowshipping goes deeper. It involves prayer, spiritual encouragement, and mutual accountability for growth, okay? People often mistake the presence of saints and brothers and sisters, them being around, as true fellowship. I'm saying having your brothers and sisters being around them in a gathering is a part of fellowship, but it isn't the whole thing. You understand? It's the socializing aspect of fellowshipping. That's an even better way of saying it. Socializing is a part of fellowshipping, but it's not the same. It's you know what I'm saying? The language, we often use the word fellowship to describe casual church parties and events. Okay, so socializing is a part of fellowshipping, but fellowshipping is a bigger thing, and that's what I'm trying to say here. And what I wrote is you can be in a fellowship and still be by yourself if you don't submit and become transparent and form a bond with your brothers or sisters. You have to look, you have people who they are in fellowships, they're on communities, and they're completely shut off and just surface level and won't open up, won't let themselves to be vulnerable. They're trying to maintain a good appearance or facade, and what happens eventually, that thing just collapses. Like it just gets too hard to try to look the part instead of just being yourself. You know what I'm saying? Just being open and transparent and vulnerable with your brothers and sisters. Now, let me show you this. So, again, like I said, you can be isolated in a community, in a fellowship. A lot of people who have not become a part of a fellowship or who don't truly fellowship and they're staying isolated, they're doing that on purpose because they don't want to, get involved and go through sometimes the difficult, uncomfortable aspects of being the sharpening process, the shaping process of being around the saints, your brothers and sisters. Okay. So yeah, this is real. This is real talk. And some people do that where you can see it because it's physically, and they're physically, they're not around any fellowships, any saints. They're just by themselves. But some people are around the saints and they just socially, spiritually, whatever you want to call it, shut off and close up. And they're not going to really be transparent with anybody. They're just going to be kind of, isolated, even though they're around people. You know, they're closed off, you could call it. And you're not going to grow. You're not going to develop that way. And everybody, man, listen, everybody, people who are functioning like this, whether they live somewhere else and they're not around anywhere, or whether they're around the saints but they just really not opening up and getting involved, man, everybody has their perfectly scripted excuse that sounds good to them and probably to a lot of people around them. But how's that excuse going to sound on Judgment Day? You see what I'm saying? You got to prioritize spiritual growth and development, and multiply your talents and everything like that, because look, you're not promised tomorrow. That's just real talk. Anyway, y'all, with that said, I'm Michael Israel. You're watching Spiritual Combat. Appreciate y'all tuning in.